you want to quickly, for people who maybe don't know, going through the terms of like Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Mizrahi, like what that...
I don't feel like I understand it enough to be able to do that. Can I just be, and I can even say here that like, I think actually you would be better at defining, because you think more like in like terms of regions and history. I don't really think like that. So
I can give it the old college try.
Yeah, so let me toss it to you so that it feels, so no one can be like, oh, you're like white mansplaining, but let me toss it to you because you really, you actually do know more than I do.
I'll give it a shot. So here's the best that I can figure. And obviously in the comments, if I'm wrong about this, please let me know. Just please be respectful. I'm doing my best, but this is what I got.
Chris is very educated.
I just want to be, I just want to like set, kind of the parameters so we're clear that I'm going in with some education on this, but I don't have like a degree on the topic, which is, so Ashkenazi Jews are basically people who live in or sort of resided in Eastern and Central Europe. So think like Russia and Germany and Poland and, Hungary and places like this. In the, you use the terms, right? When people think of, white European Jews, right? They are thinking of Ashkenazi Jews. When you think of a European person who's Jewish, you are thinking of an Ashkenazi person. There are other categories, however, of Jews as well. There is a category of people called Sephardic Jews who are, and this is, again, I want to be as clear as the limits of knowledge kind of are for me, which are people who originally were Jews from Spain or Iberia in general, many of whom were then expelled from Spain by the Catholic rulers, and then often went to other parts of Europe or sometimes the Middle East. So it can be a little hazy, but at least the way I tend to think of it is Sephardic Jews, I almost think of as like Mediterranean Jews. People where they might have the phenotypes of someone from Spain or southern Italy or Greece or, Israel, sort of the Levant, that kind of area. I tend to think of people like that as being Sephardic Jews. And then you got Mizrahi Jews, which in a macro sense are people in places like Iran or Persia, or at least used to be. We won't go there. Maybe we will in a future episode. I'm really down to go there actually, but maybe not now. We're just starting out. But people who lived in places that they largely don't live anymore for certain reasons.
Not of their own volition.
Not of their own volition. Yeah, exactly. But what I'd almost broadly categorize as Middle Eastern, or maybe even more broadly, Asian Jews. People from the continent of Asia who are Jewish. Broadly speaking, I would think of as being generally Mizrahi Jews. Now, if I'm wrong on any of that, if I'm missing some specifics, please let me know. I'd love to get your thoughts on that, dear viewers. I'm doing my best here, but that's generally the sense that I have of those three populations. Think of it broadly as sort of European, Eastern European, Mediterranean, and then kind of Middle Eastern. Asian. And
like, so the history a little bit there is that, and like I mentioned at the beginning, Jews have been kicked out of a lot of places, but, after, I guess like what you would say, Old Testament times, Jews were in Israel, and over time, different, it split into two kingdoms. And then one kingdom at a time, essentially all the Jews, majority of the Jews got expelled. There have always been Jews in Israel since then, but it's a very small population because of the expulsion, because Jews what they kind of did is they took populations and switched them, swapped them with each other. That was like a very common thing that was done so that, they couldn't really rebel.
And not just for Jews, by the way, often people in the past, that was just done for any population.
It's incredibly strategic.
Yes.
But so, and then, and my family is just groups of Jews who, my, family tree is, we made our way to Europe. And so it's good. We give
exactly.
We got there.
We got there, guys. We got there. And then we got to the Americas. The other aspects, too, that I obviously want to get into with you is the fact that you are not just Jewish, you are a subset of Orthodox Jewish. Do you want to give us a little opening on what that is, or what that is in your case?
Okay, so I can say what it is in my case. And it's there are different levels of orthodoxy. The one that people see the most in things like, when they're watching a show like Shtisel, I don't know if most people know what that is, unorthodox, or, all those kind of shows. That is kind of more of like an ultra-Orthodox sect, even though they're various sects, but people look at them and think they look the same. So all good. But so it's very interesting. I don't even know. That's so interesting. I haven't thought about that. So I'm a sect that people usually call like modern Orthodox. Okay. So what it is the base teaching of it. It's based on like a very specific rabbi that kind of started this movement, which is that it's orthodoxy. So we follow biblical Torah law, which is for us, that's First Testament and teachings around that. We follow the law, but it's also very focused on living in the modern world and how we bring that into the modern world. There are a lot of groups where, for very good reason, and they have their own systems. I'm not necessarily gonna sign up for those, but they're a little bit more isolated.
Many of us would not. I would not sign up for those.
And they're a little bit more isolated, a little bit more insular because they don't necessarily want to be part of the modern world. A lot of it is because it's post-Holocaust fear and different things. But the sect that I'm part of is very much about like go out into the world, but bring your religious perspective into it. It's not about proselytizing. Judaism is not a proselytizing. If people want to convert,
of course, okay, yes. No, it is it's almost an anti-proselytizing.
Yeah, well, because it's really hard. So there is like in Judaism, people want to convert. People are allowed to convert, but there's like a rule where the rabbis have to say no to them 7 times. Because it's hard. And in Judaism, we really believe that if you're born not Jewish, that's not like a bad thing. Right. It just means you have a different path. And as long as you don't, like there's like seven things that people who aren't Jewish should do, but they're like, don't kill, don't steal, like don't cut a limb off of a live animal and leave it, it's like, don't do adultery. So they're very basic things. And it's like, as long as you're not like a horrible human being, you are great, do your thing. You don't have to be Jewish to like fulfill what you needed to do in this world. So when I go into the world, it's not like I'm going and trying to convert people. So that's very much like my sect of Judaism. It's just really about like, how do you get a foot in both worlds? And I feel like we might be going down this path a little bit, which sometimes can be, easy and sometimes can be hard.
Well, the thing I'm curious about, and let's say this is in your case, this is modern Orthodox, if we'll call it that way, is some, let's say, cultural elements that you feel are very distinct for you and your community compared to, and I get Toronto and LA are both very diverse cities, but sort of the default cultural setting of like your average person in the city. Which I get is very hard to define because
are you asking, is it, or what does that look like?
What does that look like? Moments where you're like, regardless of, a lot of different people have different, ethnic and racial backgrounds, different religions. So I get that these are not homogenous cities, but even so, compared to your default person that you might run into, are there things culturally where you feel very distinct? Like, I have to do this thing. I've got to do this. Here's a celebration we have. I talk to people, they have no idea what I'm talking about. That kind of stuff. Yeah.
People don't think about the code switching we have to do, but my name is Rachel. It's not Rachel, but people can't pronounce my name. So I have to kind of Anglicize it. So that's like the most like basic thing. Like as soon as I introduce myself, there is like a distinction. But there is, I keep kosher. Which in its most simple elements, most people think, kosher means like a rabbi blessed the food, which I don't know where that came from because it is literally like not even a part of it, but it's basically separation of meat and milk. There is a special way that animals need to be slaughtered and that it's done by hand and it's done in a way that the animal feels the least amount of pain. And then those are like the two most, and then the only meat we can eat has like split hooves and chews its cud. So it's like a cow or like a goat. And those are like, so kosher is a big thing, we've had events where we've gone out to eat and I come with my little lunchbox with my own food and that's